And I just want to say welcome. Thanks everybody for joining in on this webinar. I'm really excited about sharing 7 steps to create a killer social media strategy, working really hard towards helping you attract more clients next year. So I'm Sue Kirshner. I'm the president of Brand Strong Marketing. And I have so much information that I want to share with you that I'm going to dig right into that and skip a lengthy bio. If you want to learn anything more about me, you can always check it out at brandstrongmarketing.com. All right, let's get going here. All right, so what are we going to cover today in this webinar? I'm going to talk a little bit about what is social media marketing, the role it plays in attracting clients, how small business owners are using it to give you some ideas and spur some creative inspiration. But I'm also going to talk about some hard truths about social media marketing. It is a definite marketing category that needs a strategy behind it in order to work, which is why we're all here today. So, and then we're going to dip right into that 7 steps to create the social media plan that attracts clients. So let's go ahead and get started. What I want to talk about is in 2014, to kind of kick this off, LinkedIn did a study with small business owners to figure out what was the #1 problem that they were facing. And the vast majority of people said that attracting new customers is their biggest challenge. So, and then they also said that 61% of them were saying that social media helps them gain new customers and it's effective for them. So I'm going to go ahead and spur on that inspiration and talk about that a little more. As you'll see at the bottom of my slide, this being a social media presentation, one of the things you could do if you also speak to help market your business is at the bottom of my slide, I put down something that I'm going to ask people to tweet while they're watching the presentation. So every now and then you might see that at the bottom of your slides, but that's something to keep in mind as a little tip. If you do speak for your business in terms of marketing, tell people what to say. Encourage them to really get out there and start sharing your message. So small business owners are definitely finding that social media works to help them gain new customers. So how do you do that? Well, you do that with an attraction marketing model. So, and what that is really it's a strategy to magnetically attract qualified prospects to your website and businesses. These people are already interested in what you're doing because they found you online and they're seeking the solutions that you provide. So there's a kind of a dynamic duo, as I say, behind this attraction marketing model that you need to have in order to capitalize on this. And that is having valuable content as well as social media in order to share that content out with the world. So how does it work? Well, as I said, it involves content marketing to generate valuable information that attracts your clients and your prospects, right? So whether that's sharing how-to tips or sharing articles or writing white papers or producing videos or doing webinars like these, you're going to go ahead and create content that your potential client is searching for potentially online. So when they type that in on Google, your content and your website obviously are going to come up in order for them to find you. The second part of this model is using social media to amplify your message, engage, and build a relationship with prospects. But then beyond that, you also need a mechanism to capture email addresses once they do get to your site, and then use email marketing to convert them from prospects into customers. So as you can see from the graphic there, content and social media marketing are kind of the front end of this model, getting you fans, getting you leads, and then email marketing then takes over afterwards to turn those prospects into customers. And we're going to focus on the first 2 today. So what is social media marketing before we jump in? And I'm sure most of you know this, but I'm going to throw out the definition anyway. So social media marketing is the process by gaining traffic or attention for your business through social media sites. If you think about these social media sites, they're really just a communications channel. Definitely different, but the same as if you wanted to share your message on the radio or on TV. These are just channels that you can use to get your brand story and your message out. But everybody kind of wants to jump on these because there's a very low barrier to entry. Cost is relatively low in compared to, let's say, TV advertising, newspaper advertising, and things like that. And it really kind of levels the playing field for large businesses and small businesses to compete because you don't necessarily have to throw a ton of money at this. You just have to have great strategy and great messaging. So why bother with social media? Obviously you're interested or you wouldn't be here today on the webinar, but I'm going to throw out a couple ideas here about why you should be on social media channels in order to reach your customers. So first of all, it's not a trend. It stopped being a trend a number of years ago, but it really was a catalyst changing the way that people communicate. What's great about social media marketing is that you have two-way communication. So you can send information out, they can respond to that, you can respond to their response, and it allows you to engage, which is definitely different from other forms of marketing and communication, which is pretty much static or one way. The next thing is that as I mentioned, it's an inexpensive way to connect and build relationships. So yes, it does take some time. And as we'll talk about some of the hard truths later, a lot of social media has moved to a pay for performance type of a model. So you will need to spend some money, but in general, it is an inexpensive way to connect with your potential clients and customers. The other reason you need to be on social media marketing is that there's conversations happening about your industry, about the service you provide, about your product. And if you're not out there listening and participating, you could be missing out on opportunities. And obviously we don't want that. So don't think that you can just kind of hide under the sand and you don't really need to be on social media. If your clients are out there and they're talking and you're not there, you're not considered as an option for them. So, and social media is all about sharing. So there is potential for expanded reach, which is incredible. So digital word of mouth allows your story to spread farther and wider than what you pay for, as long as your content, your social media posts are engaging for your clients. So the next slide here is I'm going to share a little bit about how small business owners use social media, again, to kind of inspire you in terms of what to share, because that's something my clients ask me a lot. Is they say, okay, I'm ready to go on social media, but what do I say? What do I talk about? What kind of information do I share? What can I do with it? And so this hopefully will give you some ideas, but you're going to build brand awareness through repetition. The more you're posting on social media, the more people are going to see your name pop up, see your content pop up, and it helps to build brand awareness. It's a great way to promote your expertise, a book that you have coming out, your personal brand if you're trying to get some speaking engagements or set yourself up as an authority in your industry. It allows you to connect with colleagues, to work on projects together, with customers, to potentially lead to conversations about selling and working together, or even with other companies for collaborations. So you can promote events. Social media is amazing when it comes to promoting events that you're either hosting or going to be at. And then once you're at that event, you can be using hashtags to constantly create communication or allow people at the event to easily start in on communications of who's here and what is everybody liking and which session should I go to next, or what room are we in. Social media is great for sharing that kind of immediacy type of information. Launching new products, collaborating in research I talked about. You can find groups with similar interests that you want to participate in as a way to find your potential customers, or as we said, collaborations with other people. A lot of companies are using social media for customer service. Twitter is definitely a medium where a lot of clients will go if they want to reach out to some larger companies to say, hey, I need some help. Can somebody address this? And so it needs some constant monitoring, but it is definitely a great way to answer queries that you might have from your clients. And it's a great way to create a community. So if that's part of your business model, is creating a group of people who are all interested in the same subject, then social media is a great way for them to communicate with each other instead of just talking to you and you passing that information along. You can use social media channels to allow the entire group to bolster each other up and just share information and create more value. But the basic idea behind it is attract customers and generate leads. So, sounds awesome, right? Everybody wants to jump into social media, but I also want to share some hard truths, because it's not a quick fix. It's not something that is going to get you sales tomorrow. Social media, it's about building relationships, and it does take some time. So As I mentioned, one of the hard truths about social media is that it's not free. It was a number of years ago, but now it's not. If you take Facebook, for example, they have changed their algorithms so many times that even if you have 1,000 fans on your Facebook business page, Facebook may only show your post to like 2% of those people. They need to make money. That's their revenue model. And if you want people to see your posts, you will need to pay for that. Now, granted, it's way less expensive than trying to do some other types of advertising, but keep in mind when you're budgeting for 2018 that you will probably need to put some cash aside in the budget to boost your social media posts or pay someone to make sure that you're branded well on your profiles. So it also takes some time. Now, it shouldn't take 8 hours a day or it shouldn't distract you from your core business, but you will need to put some time aside every week in order to answer questions, share content and information, reach out to collaborators or peers in order to get that viral word of mouth that we were talking about. Social media is all about the customer. It cannot be you vomiting content, so to speak, where you're just like, hey, read my blog post. Hey, I've got a new video out. Hey, take a look at this. Hey, will you buy from me? It has to be something that is attractive and interesting to them. So think about what content to share based on what do you think your customer would want to read or see, right? So make sure that it's focused on that. And then social media works like a cocktail party, right? So if you were to go up to someone at a cocktail party and say, hey, I wrote a book, would you read it? Or, hey, would you buy this particular product that I'm selling? You don't do that. You get to know them, you talk to them a little bit, you build some trust, you build a relationship, you create some rapport, and then you can go and potentially ask for their business after you've established that. So think about it that way. If you wouldn't do this at a cocktail party, then don't do it on social media as well when you start posting. It works best when it's integrated, which means that social media is not going to be the only marketing that your company does. You need to be, like we said, doing email marketing. You may need to be doing offline marketing, whether that's networking or speaking or participating in trade shows. But social media works best when it's integrated in with all those other campaigns and efforts that you're doing. As I mentioned, it will not save your business. If your business is floundering and you desperately need sales tomorrow, social media is not the way to get that. Like we said, if you're building a relationship, it takes time to get to the point where you can go for the ask, so to speak. So it's not going to turn everything around tomorrow. It's something that's going to take a little bit of time. And it's not just for B2C in any way, shape, or form. And I'll talk a little bit about that later, but it's definitely important for B2B buyers, and I'll share some statistics on that. And it's a key component of the system. Like I said, if you're trying to attract new clients, it is a key component of that model, but you also need the content and you also need the email marketing in order to close all of that into a sale. So, next slide here. Oh, it's thinking for a second. There we go. So, oh, now we're going to have to go back. Hold on one second. All right, we'll skip the little comic that I had there, but social media starts with a strategy. Otherwise, it's just a fun way to kill time. And I don't know about you, but I certainly raise my hand and say that once I start looking in on some of these social media posts that are out there, I can get sucked in for hours and definitely need a way to refocus and figure out what is it that I want to share and how is that going to lead to generating more business. Because if it doesn't lead to generating more business, then it's just, like you said, a fun way to kill time or a hobby. So we're going to go through each of these 7 steps to create a social media strategy that generates business. I forgot to mention earlier, if you have any questions as we go through, I believe on the bottom of your screen, you're going to see a little chat bubble. If you click on the chat bubble, you can type in a question for me. And at the end, I'm going to have Peter, who's on to help me with some of the technical issues with this webinar. He's going to share those questions with me at the end that I can answer for you. So I will definitely make sure I leave enough time for that for you. So these are the 7 steps, and let's get started. The first thing you want to do in your strategy is to identify your objectives. Once you reach out to people, what do you want them to do? How do you want them to interact with you? So, are you looking to add more subscribers to your email list? Are you looking to build brand awareness? Are you trying to launch a new product? Are you trying to change perceptions? Maybe people see you as being this type of a service provider, but really you can do something else. Are you going to get existing customers to repurchase? Is that what you're trying to do? Because that changes the content entirely of what you might be sharing. Are you just trying to listen and gather ideas? Or are you looking to get a better ROI for your trade show or your event? So once you know what your objectives are, then that leads into, well, what type of content do we want to share, or what type of call to action you need to include on your social media posts. And then you can also measure to see whether you met those objectives or not after you've run a particular campaign, or at least we're consistently communicating on social media for a limited amount of time. The next component of your strategy is to help define your best customers. Ideally, with any marketing, but especially with social media marketing and this attraction model, you really need to know your ideal customers inside and out. You almost need to know them better than they know themselves. What challenges do they face? What is their job title? What problems could your product or service solve for them? Where are these people online? What's keeping them awake at night? How are they getting judged or rewarded within their business that you can help to promote or challenge them on? But really, it's important to know who they are, because that tells you what kind of content you should be sharing or what they're going to go onto Google and search for in order for you to get found. So if you know what they're looking for, you can provide the content, and then you can hopefully get the search engine optimization and get the traffic to your website because you're providing an answer or content about that. So I'm going to show you a couple of target market personas is what they're called. But really what I like to do, and I'm going to talk about a workshop that I'm offering next year in February, where this is part of what we're going to do, is create these target market buyers and personas, is to really understand who they are and what they do. And the reason is because you may have more than one target market, and their triggers for buying or working with you might be a little bit different. And so knowing what they are, that allows you to craft better messages. So this is target market personas for a company called Help Scout. And what they do is they help HR professionals and customer service professionals with their software programs that they have. So in the first one, they've called it the person Growth Graham. They're the founder decision maker for a 10 employees or smaller company, but they're definitely growing, and customer service is important to them. So they need a tool that's personalized, right? Whereas you've got the second person, who is Help Desk Heidi, who's on that front line talking to customers every day. Maybe it's a larger company, but they really are not happy with their help desk and tracking customer service issues and are looking for a better software program. So the way that you would try and attract attention to grab Graham's attention might be a little bit different in the messaging than it would be for Heidi. So for Heidi, you might say, hey, ready to switch, upset that your help desk software program is not meeting your needs. Try this option. Versus Graham might be, hey, your company is growing. Do not let customer service get out of control. Here is a solution to help make your company look larger than it really is. So that's what's kind of important about these two different buyers, and sitting down and taking the time to identify these people, because it helps you come up with that messaging that's more targeted and relevant and frankly attractive to them, since we are trying to attract them. All right. So as we move on to the third step, so obviously you've created your objectives, you've identified who your target is, which really helps you to figure out where to find them online as well. And now, before you jump into social media, you need to know your brand, so you have something irresistible to say. So This is definitely something that when I've worked with a lot of clients, it all kind of falls apart here, because I get called in and they'll say, I really want to jump onto social media. I want to start using that. I say, all right, well, what are we going to say? What are we going to share? What do you want people to know about you? And they don't have an answer to that. And so it's important to go back and figure out what that brand is. So you need to craft your irresistible brand messages so that you have them ready to go for your social media marketing, right? So what do you want your target to think about you? How do you help them? How is your service or your product unique? What do you want them to remember about you in case they're not ready to buy today? Also, when it comes to your messaging, you need to think about, what is your conversation style? Are you more formal? Are you more traditional? Are you more fun-loving and whimsical in the way that you communicate? Are you a young company and trying to reach other young people and maybe use a little bit more slang? But you want to be authentic in the way that you communicate, because that helps people to build a relationship and trust with you. So, and to think about, what stories do you want to share? Are you going to share case stories as part of your social media content? Or are you going to share testimonials? Are you going to share tips and how-tos, and then how are you going to craft those? But you really need to make sure that you understand what your brand is and what value that you can offer people. So when you sit down to write these social media posts, you know what you want them to think about you or to remember, right? So, but definitely step back and say your brand messages must be attractive. And again, it comes back to, it has to be a message that someone is either looking for, or it resonates with them, or it helps them solve a challenge, but it's definitely something that is going to pull people in for you. Okay, the next part, or the next step, I should say, in putting this killer social media strategy together, is to create the content that we've talked about. So some of the keys to creating great content is, it's content that your target is searching for, that they're already going online and saying, I need help with this, or where can I find a solution for this challenge or this problem, or how do I find a product that does feature A, B, and C, kind of a thing. So what are they searching for? Your content also answers a question or solves a problem. So now that you know what they're looking for, how can you write content that actually helps them, gives them value, it gives them an answer? So whether it's directly talking about a product or a service that you have that could help them, or just answering a question and saying, hey, I saw that you were interested in getting an answer on how to do this, and here's an idea. And it's a way to build that relationship and attract them without necessarily being hard sell. But your content also needs to support your brand. So, and this is kind of an extreme example, but a lot of people say, oh, you need engagement on social media. And the best way to get engagement is to share the type of content that people like. Well, people love cat videos. That's still kind of the #1 thing that gets shared on social media and gets open and engagement and things like that. But what is that doing to support your brand? So nothing really, unless you are selling something related to cats. So just sharing content that you think is going to get a lot of likes or shares or comments to boost your engagement is not necessarily the way to go if it's not going to actually support your brand. Tell people what you do, what you stand for, what promise you're making when they work for you, right? The other thing about content that you need to keep in mind when you're thinking about your social media strategy is this rule, which is content and connection before commerce, right? So I was talking earlier about, you don't want to vomit content at people. You don't want to constantly be saying, hey, I've got this great product. Hey, I've got a blog post that I wrote about my new service, or things like that. You want there to be an 80-20 rule, where 80% of the content that you are sharing on social media is really not hard sell stuff. It's not promotional in any way, shape, or form. It's just answering questions. It's sparking conversation, providing valuable content, also that your potential client looks to you as an authority, or thinks about you when they do eventually get to the point where they want to pull the trigger and purchase or look for a solution provider, right? The other 20% can be promotional, but like I said, you don't want it to be all about you. It needs to be about the customer. All right. So, and content comes in many forms, because that's something I've definitely come across in the past couple of years. Is I have a lot of clients who are saying, you know, I've got great ideas in my head, but I absolutely hate writing. I don't want to blog. I don't want to write white papers. I just absolutely hate sitting down, and the idea of trying to craft something is frightening to me. So, but content comes in many forms. It could be a blog post. It could be a video. It could be a webinar. It could be a podcast. Photos with some text on it is content if you're sharing a quick tip about something. Quotes are very shareable on social media. So if you're a coach, a wellness coach, or an executive coach, sharing quotes that give people kind of a smile or a daily affirmation is a great thing to share on social media. And infographics are always important as well. Depending on what social media channel you're using, some of them are more visual oriented than others. So if you're on Facebook or on Instagram or even Pinterest, anything that's visual, like an infographic or a photo or a quote, those things tend to stand out and to get shared a whole lot more than anything that is just text or a boring title bar or things like that. So, but as I say in my little tweetable quote at the bottom, content's only valuable if your target is searching for it and it helps to tell your brand story. So, but I'm going to talk a little bit about, in this next slide here, where does your content reside? Oh, actually, I take that back. I'm going to talk about a case story here. So, as an example of sharing the type of content that your customers are looking for, I've got a client called Newport Promotions, and the woman, Donna Blunt, who runs that particular company, sells promotional products. So there's definitely a lot of competition in that field. There's a lot of people selling them. So when she asked me for some help to sit down and say, well, how do I figure out what my brand is? How do I differentiate myself from others? We ultimately ended up through strategic sessions and planning and working with her and talking to her clients, we figured out that she is really good at using promotional products and coming up with ideas to drive people to your trade show. So we created a lot of content then, like 5 unique ideas to drive traffic to your trade show booth, or using the power of selfies to drive people to your trade show booth. But we created a lot of content on her blog that we thought her ideal type of customer would be looking for. And it has. It has definitely worked with getting her some traffic, even from international customers that have found her through this content. We also created an ebook that she used to try and capture email addresses for people who found her on her blog, which is how to choose the right promotional products to drive trade show booth traffic. And it was something that she uses to capture email addresses that people want to download this ebook. So, but not sitting down or by sitting down and really trying to figure out what her brand is, it helped us to figure out that we needed a lot more content around trade show marketing and driving traffic to trade show booths using promotional products, because not a lot of her competitors were doing that, and it really helped her to stand out. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about where do you put this content, right? So as part of your attraction marketing model, you need to have a place where your content sits that you're going to drive people to so that you can capture their email addresses. And why do we want to capture their email addresses? Well, there's a couple different reasons. One is if someone gives you their email address, you now have permission to market to them. They have basically said, I am interested in you, your company, your product, or your service, and I want to learn more. So now the information that you send them can be more promotional. They've said they're interested, and you definitely want to be able to provide the information that they're looking for. The second thing about why it's so important to capture email addresses is because social media marketing channels are wonderful in terms of getting followers and fans and being able to communicate with people who are interested in your business. But the problem is you don't own those channels, and these social media channels can change their rules at any point, at any time, And suddenly you might lose a channel to talk to the people who are interested in your company if, let's say, Facebook no longer decides to show your post to people. So this has definitely been an issue with people who rely specifically on social media as their only form of communicating with their potential customers. Because again, it's not your real estate. You don't own where that data is being stored, and it could disappear tomorrow. So as we've seen over the years, Facebook is showing your posts to fewer and fewer people, and there's nothing you as the business can do about that other than pay or boost your posts to get it in front of the people who like you. So you really want to make sure that at the end of the day, you have a strong email list of people who are interested in your company that you own. You are allowed to send information to these people, and it does not really rely on some of these other channels and taking the potential risk that they could change their rules and suddenly you no longer have that list of great people to talk to. So in general, a lot of my clients, or what I tell people, is your blog or your website should be where you send people to learn more, to get the content, and to give you their email address. So I kind of call it this wheel of perpetual promotion, in that you've got content on your blog or your website, but then you may go to Twitter and say, hey, if you're interested, or if you're looking for information about this, here's a link back to my site to find that. You could use YouTube. You could be guest posting on somebody else's blog or somebody else's site that gives them valuable information, but then sends them back to your site to find out more about you or to learn more about your products or services. So you need to have your content, but then you also need to have these spokes that drive traffic back to your site so they can find you and, again, capture their email address. Now, there are other options now that there didn't used to be before. If you don't have a website or a blog, you can publish on LinkedIn. LinkedIn definitely allows you to write full articles on there that they then, if they find it interesting in terms of the content, they might share it with a bunch of people on LinkedIn. But at the very least, the people who follow you can see that you've published something. You can definitely, if you do a lot of content on video, you can have that reside on YouTube or Vimeo. And use that as your hub for your content. It's a little harder to capture email addresses on both of those, but they still are a great place online where you can have your content reside. And at the very least, send them back to your website, again, to capture that email address, or even your Facebook page if you're using that as a mechanism to capture email addresses as well. So think about this whole attraction model. Where is your content? Where are you going to capture email addresses? And then what channels are you going to use to try and drive the traffic to your site? So in choosing this hub and spoke model, you need to choose which social media platforms that you're going to use. The first thing I say is you need to fish where the fish are, which means find out where your clients are hanging out online. So if they're not on Twitter, you don't need to be on Twitter, right? So if they're on Facebook and you say, oh, I don't really like Facebook, well, you're missing out on some opportunities. If you like LinkedIn, but everybody's on Instagram, you, again, could be missing out on opportunities. So you really need to fish where the fish are, figure out what those channels are. And I would definitely say dominate versus dilute as a strategy, which means go ahead and pick one or two channels to start with. And if you want to pick one, that's fine. But pick one or two and then just dominate it. Spend all of your time doing your social media marketing there. Get good at it. Figure out what content converts well for you, what type of graphics you may need for that particular channel. But get really good at that, and then you can always add another channel later if you start to see great results on this. But how do you know where your customers are hanging out online? Well, the first thing I would say is to ask them. So call your customers and say, hey, what social media platforms are you using? Or do you belong to any communities or any blogs that you follow? Or if I wanted to reach somebody exactly like you online, where would I need to hang out? And ask them that, and that's going to be great. The other thing you need to think about in choosing the social media platform you're going to use is what type of content do you have? Like we said, if you have a ton of videos, then you definitely should be on YouTube or Vimeo and set up a channel on either one of those platforms. If you have a lot of white papers, if that's really what you're trying to share, then maybe LinkedIn is the channel where it would be great to share these, these white papers and things like that. If you are selling a product, or if you have a lifestyle brand or a wellness brand, maybe images are the way to go. And if you're a really good photographer or have figured out a way to create good images, then I would definitely recommend, Instagram or Facebook or Pinterest as the channels to look at. So think about it. If you just absolutely cannot come up with something visual, that's just not your thing, then, again, maybe Pinterest or Instagram is not the channel that you should be on. You need to be comfortable in the way that you're going to share your content with them. So the other thing I will say is when you're getting started, make sure whatever social media platform you choose is to brand that account. Most of them give you an option to write a little about description, put a header or a banner photo in there that kind of explains what your company does. You can use your logo, you can put your photo in there, but definitely take the time to make that account as branded as you can be. Because one chance to make a first impression, but the other thing is go after this webinar, go Google your company name or Google your name and see what comes up first in the search. For some of my clients, their LinkedIn profile comes up before their own website, or their Facebook page comes up before their own website. If that is the case, that may be the social media channel may be the place someone first comes into contact with you before they ever get to your website. And you need to make sure that you're going to leave a good first impression once you're there. So here's just kind of some tips for you on, well, where is everybody hanging out online? Obviously, you need to ask your customers specifically, but as you can see in the B2B world, 40% are hanging out on LinkedIn, so that's definitely a good place to consider for sharing your message. But very close behind is Facebook. And depending on the type of business you have, you may think that Facebook is a better option, but LinkedIn is definitely strong and so is Facebook. On B2C, Facebook dominates. So if you're selling a product to a consumer, even a service to a consumer, Facebook is definitely the channel that you do not want to be ignoring in any way, shape, or form. And it's just sharing some statistics as well is there was a study put out by Social Media Examiner and even by Forrester Research, but they found that 75% of all buyers use social media for B2B purchases. So it's not just consumers who are going online and looking for information. Purchasing agents and managers and CEOs, marketing managers, they're going online and they're definitely looking for the information that they need on how to solve a challenge. And they love video, absolutely. Love video, but even 84% of C-level and executive level buyers will go to social media to look for a review or information or something before they purchase. And again, you don't want to miss out on any of that search traffic or queries or even conversations happening on social media that could lead to a potential sale. So the other thing to consider on where are the fish depends on the type of content you're trying to promote, is how often people go to these channels. So the biggest thing I would throw out there is, I don't know how many of you have a client or a customer or know someone who only goes onto LinkedIn maybe once a month. Versus on Facebook, a lot of people are on there several hours a day. So if you're really trying to push an event that's coming up in 2 weeks or something like that, maybe LinkedIn is not the right channel for you to be pushing that content, because there is a strong chance that if your customers only go onto LinkedIn once a month or something like that to check in, they may have missed it. They may have missed the date. So you may need to look at Twitter or Facebook or something else to share that content. So, again, something else to consider when you're thinking about what channel to use to share your brand story. So And then the last component of this hub and spoke model to attract clients and capture leads is how are you going to collect these email addresses? So go look at your website when we're done with this webinar and say, is it very easy for the client to see where they can stay in touch with me? You know, do they have to go to the contact page, or is right on that homepage, is there a big box that says, hey, please stay in touch, or sign up for my newsletter, or get tips on how to do something? Take a look and see how easy it is, because the last thing you want to do is put all this energy and effort into driving people to your site, and then they leave and you don't know who they were. You want them, at the very least, when they show up at your site, to give you their email address. That's the main goal. Or call you, but mostly do not leave without telling me who you are, please. So to encourage that, if you make it easy for them to find the box to give their email address, that's one thing. But then is there something that you're offering to entice them to give you that email address? So do you have a lead magnet? And what a lead magnet is some piece of free or inexpensive content or value that you're willing to share with the potential reader or audience who comes to your site in exchange for their email address. So you may or may not have seen these on sites that you go to where someone will say, hey, do you want my checklist of things to pack before you go on vacation? Or do you want a checklist of what to bring to your yoga class? Or are you looking for tips on meditation in the evening? Or if you see, I've got my lead magnet right up here on the screen, is I'm giving away a free ebook on 10 questions to ask your customers to identify your unique brand. So it's a quick 20-page ebook, but I share all the questions that they need to ask to get them started, and then what to do with that information once they have it. And what I'm hoping is that people who stumble onto my site will find that valuable and give me their email address in exchange for being able to download that ebook. You can use webinars is another way to go ahead and collect email addresses. You can do contests. Some sites do contests to get email addresses, and there's nothing wrong with that. The only issue is that you may see a large churn of people who unsubscribe afterwards, because you will get a lot of people who just give you their email address because they want to win the contest, and when they don't win a contest, then they're going to back out. So, but for some companies, it's worth taking that chance, because even if they signed up just for the contents or the contest, they may stay as an email subscriber once they get to know the type of content you share with them more frequently. So, but that's the model. So it's more than just thinking about social media posts. It's how you're going to use social media to drive them to this hub and spoke attraction model, and then how are you going to capture their email addresses, right? All right, so I've got this little comic here, but what it really is trying to get across is you need to have followers, right, on your social media channels. Otherwise, you're just kind of talking to yourself or your cat or your mom or anyone who happens to be staring at the screen when you post these things. So you need to get social. You need to get followers so that people can see your messages. Or also, if you decide you're going to pay to boost your posts, you can pay to boost your posts to the people who've said they're interested. They are your followers, right? So when you think about social media, there's 3 phases you're going to go through if you're just getting started, or even if you've done it for a little while, to realize that you're going to have to go through these stages in order before things are really going to kind of pick up for you. So you may find that the first stage is building your audience. You're just going to share a ton of content that attracts people, gets them to your site, gets them to capture your email, or allows you to capture their email addresses, and just gets you a lot of followers, so that when you do have promotional information to send out at some point, someone is going to see it. So you want to build your audience, and you may do that for 3 months, 6 months. It depends on how frequently you're sharing and how much time and energy and effort you're putting into this. But and by audience, your audience is going to depend on your business. So 100 people may be a big enough audience for you, because you only need to convert 2 or 3 people a year because you have a high ticket item that you're selling, and that's all you need in order to stay profitable in your business. Or you may need 10,000 people on there because you're selling very small items and you need huge repetition and a large amount of customers. So building your audience to a certain number or a certain level is going to depend totally on your business and what you're selling. But after you've attracted people to follow you on social media, now you need to start building relationships. So you could ask questions, you can engage with them, you could offer them free things, you could like their content. That's another thing that's important to do. Is, again, this is a two-way street when you're trying to build a relationship. So if there is a client who is following you, go follow them and like their stuff on social media too. It's a way that kind of shows I'm giving back, and they see that you're sharing it, and it draws attention and awareness to your name again. And then the third phase is then trying to build your business. So letting them know about workshops or products or services or things that are going on, or telling them you're having a sale if you're having a sale, or you've got DVDs that you're selling for a training program or things like that. So, so it may take, like we said, 12 months to go through all three phases of this social media engagement, or it could take 6 months or less or whatever, but it just depends on how fast you build, how good your content is, how quickly you engage with people to get to that point. But you will need to go through those three stages to get to a point where you're actually using social to sell or build your business. And you need to be consistent when you're on social media. So you can't post every other month. You can't post something that's on one topic and then a month later you post on another topic and you're confusing people. You need to be consistent. So set a schedule for yourself. Set up an editorial calendar maybe where you say, I'm going to post on LinkedIn every 3 days and here's the type of content I'm sharing this month. But definitely be consistent, because if you don't want to say, well, I posted 3 times and I don't have any customers. What's up with that? You need more. You need to put more effort into it. You're trying to attract attention, so you need to be out there in order to do that. And then once you've attracted their attention, you need to be consistent with the type of content and information you're sharing, so they look to you as an authority source or someone they might want to do business with. But knowing that, though, I still will caution. I'm a small business owner myself. Do what you can. Do not freak out and say, oh my gosh, I have to spend 5 hours on this a week, or things like that. Do what you can and build it slowly. Start where you are and do what you can achieve as you go along, right? So if you sit around and wait until you have the time to do it, or if you sit around and wait until you absolutely have the most perfect graphics, you're missing opportunities. So do what you can and don't beat yourself up for the fact that I'm not posting every day, or I'm only posting, every other day or something like that. Just do what you can. Your business is not social media. It's a communication channel that's supposed to support your business. So, and again, give it time. It takes patience, because like any relationship, it needs to build. So how do you get followers and build your audience? Well, first of all, obviously, shareable content. So if you've got content that's great, an ebook, a white paper, a video that others think is awesome, hopefully they'll share it, and now suddenly you're going to get new followers who discover you and find you. But definitely invite your customers, vendors, employees, partners, peers, networking friends. Tell them, hey, I'm on LinkedIn, or I just set up a new profile on Instagram. Please follow me. I'm going to share information about this, right? Put it in your email signature line. Let them know. Give them the link to your Facebook page or your LinkedIn page. Let them connect with you that way. You can also build your audience by borrowing someone else's audience. So if there's someone in your in a industry that's kind of complementary to yours, that's targeting the same type of customer that you are, reach out to them and say, hey, would you mind if I wrote a guest post with you? Or would you mind if I did a video interview with you? And obviously then they're going to show it to their audience, which is much larger than yours. You're providing value to that audience, and hopefully some of those people will click over back to your website to find out more about you and what you're doing. But let me tell you, if you interview someone, do a video interview or even a podcast, or even if it's just a blog written interview, and they have a ton of followers, well, obviously anything that they do online, including your interview, they're going to share it with their followers. They want people to know that this content exists. So it's a great way to steal somebody else's audience, obviously. So the other thing you can do is piggyback off of an event. If you're going to a trade show, going to a conference, use that hashtag, see who's communicating about the event, and then start posting yourself so that you kind of stand out and people will notice you at the event because, oh, who is this person who keeps saying great things about the speakers or is sharing some great information in addition to what the speakers are sharing. That's a great way to grab attention and drive people to your site and get followers. And then we talked about contests. We talked about contests to get email addresses on your website, but you can also run contests to get followers. So on Instagram and on Facebook, there's tons of companies running contests to get more fans and more followers, because that way, hopefully, even with a 2% share rate that Facebook gives business page owners, 2% of 100 is nothing like 2% of 1,000. And so the more fans you can get, even through these contests, the more people could organically see your posts, and it's better for you. All right, so those are some tips on how to build your audience once you've got your page ready to go and your posts ready to go. This is a client of mine as an example. It's a company called ITEGRIA. They are an outsourced technology management company specifically for registered investment advisors. So these RIAs, they deal with a lot of financial data. Cybersecurity is one of the biggest issues that they have. And my client ITEGRIA definitely helps them with outsourced services that are secure, but also with a lot of content and information. So they wrote a book probably about 1.5 years ago, and they used it to build awareness for their company online. And at one of the largest RIA conferences, we ran a 60-day campaign for them saying, hey, come to our booth at the Schwab Impact Show. We're giving away a copy of our booth. Don't leave without talking to us about our book. The results were we drove it up to being a #1 bestseller on Amazon. They had a large number of booth leads that were generated, 160% increase in Twitter fans, followers, and impressions, and their site visitors went up by 46% too. So, and all because we had this valuable piece of content, which was their book, that we could promote in order to get them to learn more about the company and show up at their booth at their trade show. So the last step I'm going to share with you is analyze, rinse, and repeat. Dig into the data. Again, we set up objectives way at the beginning of these steps to kind of say what we wanted to accomplish. So now we need to go into the data and see, are we accomplishing it? Are we getting more fans? Are we driving more people to our website? Are we driving more email addresses that we've been able to capture with lead magnets and with our social media posts and things like that? So, so the easiest way to find that data is Google Analytics. If you do not have that installed on your website, please do so. It gives you, even if you only skim the surface on the data that's in there, which sometimes I only go in and don't take advantage of all the data that's in there, it still gives you great information on who's coming to your site, what pages they're landing on, how long they're staying there, and really what content is working for you. But then each platform has their own version of analytics as well. So Facebook will tell you a lot of information about who's coming to your site, engaging, or who's coming to your Facebook business page, who's engaging with your content, which posts are doing the best, who these people are. They give you demographics on, are they male, are they female, what are their ages, what time are they consuming your posts. So maybe you were posting in the morning, but really there's a lot more people after 8 p.m. before they go to bed who are looking on Facebook, and that's a better time to post. So all these platform analytics are good to look at. Pinterest has them, Instagram has them, Twitter has them, LinkedIn has them. Some are more sophisticated than others, but they will all give you basic information on what's working and what's not working. And once you know that, you can then repeat it or do more of that to engage more customers. The other thing you could do is invest in tools to streamline this process. So once social media really starts to work for you, you can invest in tools like Hootsuite or Buffer or MeetEdgar. These are all software platforms that allow you to go in and set up all your social media posts for the week or for the month in a half hour. You can schedule the date, you can schedule the time that you want these to post, you can attach the photos, the videos, whatever you want to do. You do it all from one dashboard, and it makes throwing your content or publishing your content a lot faster and easier. You still may need to go in and into each one of the platforms, or through this dashboard, you can still respond to people and answer questions and things like that. But at least you can get the bulk or the majority of your content pre-programmed using some of these tools, which are great. And again, if you started with one platform, let's say LinkedIn, and it's working really well for you, maybe now after 3 to 6 months, you start another platform based on where you know your customers are going to be hanging out, and you start then to dominate and see what kind of results you get in that platform. All right, so those were the 7 steps to creating a killer social media strategy that's going to help you attract clients. So whether you are just getting started, please take the time to sit down and walk through and think through each of these steps. Or if you've been doing social media but you want to make it better, more effective, maybe even easier, go back and take a look at what your results have been so far, and where can you boost your strategy in order to get better results and attract more clients, right? So, but the thing I want to talk about at the end here, before we jump into the questions, is how I can help you, if I can, to really fine tune and hone your social media marketing so that you get the best results as possible. And to be honest, the 2 biggest pieces of these, or the 2 most important steps here, are defining your best customers and crafting irresistible brand messages. Because if you don't have the right message, you are not going to attract either the right client, so you have a harder time selling to the people that you do attract, or you're not convincing them that you are the absolute best option for them. So there's a couple ways that I can help you to craft that foundation. And it's not even for social media. If you don't know who your customer is and you don't know what your brand messages are, then don't be jumping into video marketing, or don't be running newspaper advertising, or even don't go to that next trade show unless you really know what you want to say to these people, and are the people you're trying to target even there, kind of a thing. So I'm going to talk about if you need help with social media, I definitely do one-on-one social media consulting. I can help you with the strategy that we just talked about. I can even give you platform-specific training. So if you say, you know what, I have to be on Instagram, that's where all my clients are, and I don't know anything about it, I can come in and help walk you through setting up the profiles and getting started with how to set the posts up and creating hashtags and things like that. And I can also help you with content analysis. So I can take a look at the content that you want to share and make suggestions on how to repurpose it, or how to create more of it fast and get it out there as soon as possible. Or if it's just not the right content to be sharing, maybe it's not going to help you hit your goals, I can certainly help you with content analysis and creation. So, but the other thing I can help you with is going back to that foundational part of defining your target market and your brand messages. Is I'm creating this new workshop that I'm launching next February that I'm very excited about. It's called Be Irresistible to Clients. It's going to be a small exclusive workshop where we're going to work on that foundation, which is going to help with all of your marketing, social media, video, anything that you want to start investing in 2018 to attract clients. We're going to work on that foundation to make sure that you're out of the gates, you are going to be much more effective. So in this fun and engaging workshop, we're going to learn how to get focus and clarity on your brand promise. So you're going to know, what do you stand for, who your target market is, how you offer them value, really get clear on that promise that you make to your customers. You're going to identify your next best customer. So how do you hit the sweet spot with them? How do you understand them better than they understand themselves? We're going to walk through a lot of exercises to figure that out. And then on top of that, we're going to make sure your brand is unique and memorable to stand out, because there's a lot of noise out there, and we need to help you to do that. So how do we take what you're already strong with and make it stronger or more unique, right? So we're going to brainstorm ideas on how to do that. And we're going to identify some quick sales wins. So within 90 days, is there something that we could do through marketing and through our messaging and through our target market that will get you a quick win, whether that's a new client or whether that's a new project. So all of my workshops are designed with the busy business owner in mind. I want you to be able to spend a day with me, which I know is hard, but the value in exchange for doing that is you're going to have actionable items that you can take back to your office and implement the very next day. So what you're going to leave the workshop with is a focused, clear brand promise. You will have an elevator speech. You will know how to talk about your business in a way that gives you what I call brand swagger. You are confident. You can walk into a networking meeting and know who you are, what you do, who you do it for, and who you want to talk to in that room, right? We're also going to talk about defining your brand personality so that all of your communication messages are written in the right tone of voice that helps you be the most authentic when you're talking to your customers. You're also going to leave with information about identifying your next best customer, right? We're going to walk through exercises to identify their customer pain points. We're going to have fun creating target market persona boards. I have one that sits in my office, so every day I take a look at that and say, this is who I'm working for. This is who I'm writing content for. This is who my workshops need to appeal to. This is who my new product needs to attract. But we're going to create those boards, which is a lot of fun. And then we're going to understand the best way to reach these people so that you can share your brand story. Then we're going to, talking about unique and memorable, we're going to brainstorm ideas to make your brand stronger by doing a customer journey map. We're going to walk from when you first introduce yourself to a customer to delivering on that product and reselling to them. We're going to identify every touch point where you can make or break your brand promise with that customer and say, is there anywhere that we can do something really cool or different or unique that makes you stand out from your competition? And at the end, we're going to have an outline, a 90-day marketing plan, like I said, to bring in a new client or a new project that's going to give you a quick win and some confidence with your marketing. And at the end, obviously, you're going to leave with feedback and validation from me. These are going to be small workshops, only 10 people, but you're also going to get feedback from the people in the group. So it's not just me giving you feedback and validation. You have other people to bounce ideas off of. And let me tell you, as a small business owner, sometimes that is absolutely critical to helping give you the confidence to push forward and get your marketing out there, is just to have some feedback. Just be able to talk to somebody and bounce ideas off of is wonderful. And that's what's great about live events. It's going to be Friday, February 9th. It's going to be at the Co-Optum offices in Deer Park, where I share office space. They have awesome meeting rooms there. The investment for this full-day workshop is $795, but I want to thank you for being on this webinar with me. So as a special, I'm taking $400 off if you commit and register for this workshop by December 10th. And I'm also going to throw in a couple bonuses for you as well, because I definitely would love to have you there and help you start attracting more clients in 2018. So if you register by December 10th, I'm going to give you an extra 1-hour consulting appointment with me. That could either be before the workshop or after to fine-tune what you want to work on in the workshop, or I can meet with you afterwards to help you finalize some last-minute details or points or craft some new messages, or help you even kind of just evaluate what's working and what's not working. That hour is entirely yours. And I will also send you my guide that I've written on 10 ways to improve your LinkedIn profile, so you can go in and make that the best that it can possibly be. So this workshop, really, just to kind of finish up and get to the questions and answers, is this workshop's for you if you want to have your elevator pitch down pat, have 3 to 5 key marketing messages that are irresistible to your customers, so you know that when you invest the time and energy in marketing, that it's going to work for you and be effective. It's going to help make your marketing to clients cheaper, easier, and more effective. Strengthen your brand by differentiating yourself more. And this workshop's for you if you want a 90-day marketing plan to secure new revenue, some quick wins right out of the gate. So if you want to join me, you can get more details at brandstoremarketing.com/workshop. Or if you'd like to just go ahead and register, you're ready to go. Just email me at sue@brandstrongmarketing.com or give me a call. Tell me that you're in and that you attended this webinar, so I can give you the bonuses and the special discounted rate, and then I'll send you a PayPal invoice that you can go ahead and secure your spot for. So that's what I've got. I'm going to go ahead and just put this thank you screen up with all of my info if you want to do a screen grab to capture that or not. But then I will ask to see, Peter, did anybody send in any questions that I can answer?
Yeah, we do have 2 questions here.
Okay.
So the first one is, do you teach strategy and how-tos for LinkedIn business pages? Would appreciate some information or some education on this channel.
Yes, I do. So there's a couple different things that we can talk about with LinkedIn. There's your LinkedIn business page, but what a lot of what's been going on lately on LinkedIn is that there's more emphasis on your personal profile than there is on the business page. So even if you want to use LinkedIn to promote your business as opposed to, let's say, you specifically, a lot of the selling emphasis is being put on your profile page and not necessarily on the business page, because unfortunately for LinkedIn, they wanted those business pages to kind of work like Facebook, and the Facebook page where you'd put posts up and people would engage and like and comment and share. Well, that's not how LinkedIn is working. LinkedIn is still a one-to-one platform. You connect with somebody and then you talk to them. It's not so much about the groups and the comments and things like that. So a lot of the business pages are getting developed for two reasons. One is search engine optimization. You definitely want a LinkedIn business page so that it's another point of presence online where people could find you and you can tell your story. But a lot of companies are really just using it to say they're hiring, and things like that. So a lot of people are not really looking to the business pages to get up-to-date information from the business. They may go to Facebook instead, things like that. But there's so many cool things you can do on your LinkedIn profile personally that help you drive business. So LinkedIn is playing around with live video right now. They're offering it to some beta participants, but what it allows you to do is to film a 1-minute live video about why someone should do business with you or how you can help serve your clients. And it sits right there on your personal profile page, which is awesome. Because it helps to build that brand and that authenticity, because when people get to your profile, instead of just seeing your picture, they now can actually see video of you, and it creates a little bit stronger relationship or bond or ability to tell your story, especially for people who hate to read. They will click on that video and they will watch that video. You can also use your personal profile as a way to share slides of a presentation you've done or a video, not necessarily the live video, but if you've got a video on your YouTube channel, you can share it on your LinkedIn profile. Graphics, there's all kinds of things you can do on your LinkedIn profile that will drive people to your website in order to learn more. And I definitely teach the strategy for that, and how to do that if you're looking for information about that.
All right, and then we do have one more question.
Okay.
Since social media messages are only shown to a small percentage of your audience and often shown to the same people each time, how should that affect your messaging? Should you post more, or should you post the same message more than once on the same page?
You can still, I would say, post the same message on the page, because sometimes, even if someone has seen it, as we all know, to get people to react or to get people to actually do something or remember you, they need to see something 7 to 13 times. I've seen all kinds of different research reports on, oh, you need to see it 7 times to remember it, or 13 times before you'll take action. But it's not a bad thing if they see the same post more than once. And with Facebook, yes, there's going to be a group of people who love your page and react with your posts, and they'll see more of your posts than somebody else who is a fan. However, Facebook's still pretty random, and I would not shy away from posting the same thing multiple times, because there's still going to be an instance where someone will have seen it, or someone will not have seen it the first time you posted, and then Facebook may show it to them the second time, or things like that. So with LinkedIn, it's not as, you don't have to be as frequent when you post, because someone, will see it when they either log in to their LinkedIn, or LinkedIn sends an email out almost every day. I think on Mondays they tell you who looks at your profile. On Thursday they'll tell you who changes to the people you're connected with and things like that. And if you're posting there, they would see it on that email, let alone when they logged in. So, but you don't need to do that multiple times a week. Twitter, you would need to post several times a day in order to increase the chances that someone's going to see that post. But the other thing that I would say is, you don't have to just copy and paste the post 100 times. because yes, someone may see it, and your biggest fans may see it multiple times. But what you can do is, let's say you have a blog post that you're trying to promote. Change up the graphic, change up the header, change the post itself. You're still sending people to the same blog post to read more about you, or you're still sending them to your site or to your webinar invitation or something, but you can change the post so that it's not exactly the same. And that, I think, works the best, especially if you know that there's a select number of people who are always interacting with you and always going to see the same posts. You can still share. The call to action is the same: go see my blog post, or register for this, or grab my ebook, but you've changed the wording on the post a little bit so it appears different. It doesn't bore them that they're saying the same thing over and over and over again. And it's also important for you because they may click on one of those versions of your message versus another one, and now you've got a good information on which posts convert better than others. So hopefully that answered that question.
And those are the only 2 questions we have right now.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you spending your lunch hour with me on this webinar. And if you have any questions about social media, or want to learn anything more about what I shared in the strategy sessions, or what you need to have a killer strategy, or if you want information about the workshop that I have coming up, like I said, here's all my contact information. I would love to connect with you on social media, or heck, just give me a call. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.